Steve. How are you doing?
You alright?
Yeah, good, thank you.
How's this morning?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Yeah,
okay, good. Okay, so as per the emails that I have been unfortunately bombarding you with in the last couple of weeks, we really need to get a plot together on how we're going to work through the build phase. So, as we both know, the background is that the CRP didn't go brilliantly.
Yeah.
Does that chime with you?
Yeah, I think there were reasons for that.
Okay. Well, I'm all ears to the reasons.
I'm not. I'm just going to that now, but you know, I'm not going to disagree that it wasn't as smooth a ride as we would generally hope for.
Okay. So, what I'd like to get to is a position where ultimately we get to the end of the build phase and we have a version that is ready to test. So we're confident that we go into the test phase and we don't spend the first 2 weeks going through the rigmarole trying to actually get it working.
And you know, I can assure you that you know, all the plans are in place for that to happen.
Okay.
You know, we've had guys looking at the mistakes from the past. You know, we are aware there were problems, and I think we've identified most of those problems in the mind. And I see no reason why this should be a massive issue in this case. I'll be perfectly honest with you. You know, it's a nice system. We hope to make it a very friendly system. But it's not the most complex of systems.
Yes, I am inclined to agree with you.
So I think we could probably get that sorted rather well for you.
I think the main lesson learned from our side was that we needed to see more of the system earlier. And so in that case, I think the way we would like to progress this time is to find some way to allow us to see that the build is progressing, make sure we've got communication channels open, we are assisting in whatever way we can, that your developers aren't making too many assumptions that we have to undo later on.
Yes.
So I'd like to get to a situation where we are communicating regularly, that our door is open, we don't feel that we're imposing on you, or we want to see the build or check something through your build.
Well, I mean, you know, I'm going to use the cliche, but the door's always open. You know, you're more than welcome to come and visit with me.
I would like to put some structure around that, if possible.
Right.
Particularly as you are probably aware, Sally is very keen on doing this on a fixed price deal. And if we're going to do it on fixed price, we need to make sure that we have the safeguards in place to keep that contract nice and tight. So, in terms of us gaining access to the build to the process, what is it that you could suggest to help us work, particularly with regards to the fact that it's in Milan, it's not over here in the UK?
Well, I mean, as things stand, we are testing systems are out in Milan, where the build's taking place.
Should we just pause it there, just to kind of reflect on what's worked so far? Sorry. I can hear your bullshit meeting. What am I going to say? Okay, well done, Paul. How do you feel it's gone so far?
That's exactly the conversation I want to have with you. Because I as per what I've said to you, I need to actually be a bit more bullish in some of these situations, and that is actually what I wanted to do.
And how did that feel for you?
Can I just ask, did anybody else think that was bullish?
So I didn't think that. I thought there was that you were not made. You maybe weren't viewed as pushy as you could be in terms of exactly what you were saying. You're providing the money for this, and they're providing the service for it effectively.
Okay, that's more bullish than I'd normally go about.
Yeah,
it is.
And how did it feel doing that for you?
Satisfying. I quite like it actually.
I expected you just open to Richard to give you a solution, whereas I would have expected you to have said, this is the way we're going to work.
Okay.
I think this is your style where you found that bit which I didn't personally. I think if you had maybe thought about using another tool such as we've done that first bit. I think the next step is to do some benefits and concerns to make sure we're on the same page, and then use a tool to drive out some more direct feedback to, if that's what you find difficult.
Tool.
So like using benefits and concerns, sitting down together, can you just go through the benefits of what happened in that first phase of the concerns from both sides?
Yeah. Okay.
I think you gave him an opportunity. I would have said, okay, so how do you think phase 1 went? Right. Let him start off.
I want to make sure he's in absolute no uncertain terms that we felt that the CRP was a disaster.
Yeah.
And
But
you can follow up with that.
you can follow up with that.
complimentary pilot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can follow up with that. But firstly, let him say, if he thought, oh, I thought it went really well, well, actually, from our perspective, we thought it was horrific. And these are the reasons why we thought it was horrific. And I want to make sure that we're not in that place coming up because we cannot be, right? Rather than say, I didn't think it was very good, he goes, yes, it wasn't as smooth as it could be. He was trying to placate you, right? Just give him an easy ride. Actually,
okay, I don't actually agree with your assessment.
okay.
I actually think I need to go in there hard and make it very clear to them that they're not going to get away with it this time. And to a certain extent, whilst I do need to encourage him to empower him, I also need to make sure he realises we are a customer.
I didn't feel you were that hard, that's my point.
Okay.
Right? I felt
But I wouldn't.
you gave him the opportunity to give you an easy placation. Right? Yes, it wasn't as smooth as it could be. Actually, what does he think? I disagree.
Yeah.
It was a disaster, and we are not going to be in this. And then you could have gone harsh. I didn't think you were harsh enough.
You're always
from your position. That's me.
leading into a negotiation here. Because the next part is going to be, right, what options have we got? You know, how could we go through the build process? How can we gain visibility? And I can see where you're going. You're trying to get. Well, sorry, I can see where Gideon's saying you're trying to get this guy to admit to where things fell through, and you can use that to lead you on to. So here's how we could solve this going forwards.
Yeah.
To gain visibility, these points, these points, these points. So I can understand where Gideon's coming from.
Okay. Well, my assessment is I didn't think you were too bullish at all. I think it's great. You were clear, you were straight, and I think that works really well for people. I think you could warm it up a bit and bring him into the conversation still. I think you can still be straight down to the point, but because we want him to get involved. And what I was seeing you go into a little bit of fight and flight, like, I'm just going to defend my position rather than having a real adult conversation. That's why I quite liked their, we need to get a plot together on blah, 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 and I don't think it went brilliantly. Can we talk about that? Instead of it sounded like a menacing, let's be real about this, but I do want to understand what happened. It opens up your communication and will probably get him being less panicked and stressed and more willing to play ball with you and have a conversation. Because the only thing is about going in too much of, I've got to tell him exactly what I think, is he's going to go into fight and flight defence, and he won't be able to think clearly. But that's a little bit, that's why I talked a lot about Warren's high status this morning. Am I saying the right thing now?
Yeah,
Tell me from your experience.
Absolutely. I mean, my experience is that I do a lot of work for B&Q, who are a massive organisation, like Tesco's is a massive organisation. And my guess is that for TXT, you are right up there as A1, number one customer.
Yes, they sell on this contract.
Yeah. And therefore, my response is to try and placate. I want you to like me. I want you to be happy with TXT. But I'm also aware that I can't change TXT. So I've been sent to this meeting. It's my job to come to this meeting, but I know as well as you do that the meeting we're having, I'm going to walk away from. When I get back to TXT and go to my director, I've got to say to him or her, they really weren't very happy, and they think we should do this. What do you reckon? What shall I do next? Can I say yes to them? So my job is one of
So he won't even be listening. That's what I was sensing. He's like, all my job is to defend today, and what you're wanting to get to is a bit of honesty.
Yeah.
The level of, come on, let's put our cards on the table and really talk about what happened. So I would suggest definitely be straight, but in kind of in the context of, look, you know, we both want this to be a success. You know, I think if we can have an honest conversation about what happened, so that we can work together collaboratively, would probably make him feel a bit more safe, rather than, oh my God, I'm being told off like a naughty boy. Does that make sense, Paul?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Possibly the concept that we talked about yesterday about mutual benefits.
Yeah.
So, you know, the benefit to them getting it right is to trade off the Tesco name a successful implementation.
But they already do that.
They
get that. They haven't delivered for a second.
But if the next one messes up, you stop them, you trade off the name, right? But the benefits of it going successfully, it raises their profile around the world, right? And you get the system you want delivered. So it's not just about implicating you. It's actually
you want to have a real conversation rather than, I'm just going to butter you up conversation. You want to get to the nub of it. So I feel like you need to facilitate a little bit of safety for him to admit wherever the mistake's made. So I actually really liked your suggestion of asking him a few questions, because your question was a bit, as we both know, do you agree with that? Didn't go brilliantly. So where I'd like to get to is get to the build phase version. So I would encourage a bit more exploratory questioning. Can you kind of just talk me through exactly what happened, and we can tell you from our side what I mean by it didn't go brilliantly.
Can I say,
but the bit I really liked, Paul, was when you said the main lesson learnt on our side. So for me, it didn't feel totally blaming, and I thought that was really great. Sorry, I've interrupted you.
No, that's not.
Well, you. Oh, sorry. I beat you to it. So yeah, a bit more warm. Definitely clear and direct, but a bit more warmth and safety for him, so he doesn't need to go into placating. Yeah.
So keep bullish, but interest.
Yeah.
It's a gin and tonic.
What?
It is when making a gin and tonic out of this conversation. Marvellous.
At least it's not a holiday.
Ah, good to see you.
Hey, right, so as I'd probably rather rudely be doing, we bombard you box with questions about the build.
Yeah, I know.
So the background is obviously our experience as the CRP. From our side, we felt that we didn't get to see enough a bit early enough, or the build that we took with the CRP early enough. And I just sort of want to understand the experiences on your side, and I suppose why it was that things got to be so late when we got there.
Yeah, I think we've had a couple of people looking into this because we value you as a customer, and we like to stay on track with Tesco's. And one of the things we've realised is that whilst most of our work has always been done with small fashion houses, I'm sure you know, the size of Tesco's in terms of your range of clothing, I'm afraid, underestimated slightly.
Yeah.
And that's been a big learning curve for us, and one certainly that we're looking to rectify in future work that we do with you. So that was the major issue. It was the not the number of stores, but the range of clothing. Because most of our customers may have a range of, let's say, 250 to 500 different items, whereas Tesco you've got something like 2,500.
Yes, that will grow as well. So
and that will grow, I'm sure, yes. So, I think that was a question that maybe we should have asked at the beginning.
Okay.
And that is something that we've certainly taken on board. I've certainly taken on board.
Okay.
And I've passed that both upwards to my director and down to the guys actually doing this piece of work. So, yes, there were mistakes. prove ourselves with this next piece of work.
So, what do you feel that we could do differently this time? Particularly, one thing you say that resonates with me is that you sort of underestimated the size of the range a little bit, and when it came back, it wasn't really working technically. What can we do differently next time? Do you need more access to us in order to verify assumptions? Do we need to have a facility so we can see the build early? What do you feel we can do differently?
I think we've already changed some of the systems, in as much as I know that the PM on this particular project is liaising far more frequently with your guys. And we've also put into place a system where we don't just ask questions. It sounds rather silly, but we've actually put a thing in where we're actually asking you what the questions we should have asked you should be. Because you know your business a lot better than we do, the best way in the world. So, you know, I think that's already taken care of most of what could be a problem. I'm interested, you saying about getting more involved in the build. My understanding has always been that Tesco's didn't want to put the resource into that area, and he wanted us to create the build and then have your sign off after. That was my understanding.
Not at all. I think it's not a way that we usually work with our vendors. So I think we'd like to make sure we've got the structure in place through the phase, so that status reporting, early visibility, early drops of code to our environments, regular contact over business questions, assumptions. I feel that working almost as if you were a development team within Tesco rather than a science, so we're working in partnership, we get a much more practical way to go. Yes, I will have to process as a formality, but ultimately we don't want to get to that point without having had a close relationship through the build phase. So we do need to put some structures in there around that.
And our status reporting at the moment.
Should we just pause it there? This feels like a very different conversation now, Paul. How is this for you this time?
I want to chew it along a little bit. Actually, my instinct in this situation is to actually let him, is to shut him up a bit. I suppose because I'm conscious that I need to give him time to talk and feel confident in what he said before. I don't want to sort of.
What's your instinct telling you to do then?
To push him a bit on some of the points.
Yeah, I would definitely go with your instinct. I was feeling exactly the same, which is why I stopped you. Because it feels really respectful, great questions, really very high status. I'm asking you questions because I want to know, but there's something here about making this concrete and making him know the seriousness of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, pushing on that. Does anyone else?
No, I think it was. I kind of felt Paul's pain a little bit there in terms of I want to jump in here, but I don't know how really I'm going to do that and keep you on side. So I don't know if.
I'm very conscious I don't want to put it back on the defensive.
Yeah,
exactly.
So you can kind of see that.
So there's a tip, and we're going to look at this later in listening skills. I would what's the word? Summarise what he is saying. Right. Okay. So you're saying this, and you're saying this. So can we agree? Bang. And so that would put you back in high status mode, being in charge, and getting him. That this is a kind of commitment and consistency moment. I'm saying here, where you're saying you made an effort. So what are you agreeing to next time? Can we just kind of agree on that? So then you get some commitment. That's what I'm sensing.
Although I think the background to the situation is that the elephant in the room here, and I think this will always be in this conversation, that I don't think he's going to have enough power to commit to anything, and we will be fighting, and it will be the second conversation, probably with somebody else, where I'll actually get what I want. I think that's.
Do you need to say it?
You've got to say that to him, though.
Yeah.
Well, no, because then that undermines him.
But you recognise that the first battle is to get him on side. If that enables you, both of you together, to get whoever needs to be on side
But
brought into it.
you're already saying you don't really feel he's the person that's got the crowd to do it. So
Right, but
really,
I
I
have
want
to go
that.
through the appropriate channels, and I need him to be working with me in TXT to be able to get.
So once you've got the agreement that he sees your point of view, you say, okay, well, can you give me the guarantee you're going to do that? If he goes, no, what do you need to speak to? Who should we be having this conversation with?
I think
And that's where I'd like to
That's
steer
probably
it.
the-
Yeah.
Exactly
So
where
go with
I'd
that
like to steer
then.
it,
Yeah. So go with that. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Can I
you
just
go
very
with
quickly,
yeah,
what's
sorry.
your reporting, your status report time?
Friday afternoon.
Oh, it's a weekly status report. Unleash.
Yeah. I want to do it more.
Well, we'll need to swap over in a minute. So if you just do this next bit, and then we'll
What is the next bit?
So you were saying you wanted to push it. You wanted to move into pushing him.
Yes. Okay.
So do that then.
Where are we? Okay. So what I think I'd like to do is we're happy to give you the first 4 of the 12 weeks to get started, get moving.
Right.
And then from that point, we'd like to take code drops every 4 weeks into our environments, so that the HSC can actually get used to the code and get used to it, and we can see that it works.
Okay, well, you can take that away and work on that for you.
Okay. Who is it, and how long is it going to take to sort of get that pinned down?
Well, I mean, I'll have to talk to Gary, my director, and have a chat with
Do
him.
you think you'd be amenable? I appreciate it's not normally how you would work, so it's a slightly different situation.
It's very, very difficult with Gary because he's quite he might see it as being a bit of an affront to his
Well, I'm happy to help if there's anything we can do.
Well, perhaps if I have if I try and set up with him a kind of a form where you come in and you can look at code drops, you've got to see if it's
Is there anything equally that we can do in terms of keeping communication?
well, you can have
our business
of course, you have
we want to set up a regular call single lead developer
I'm going to pause it there and challenge you to say that as I propose as a vision, just to see what that technique would be like right now. Vision and enthusiasm right now, and I just wanted to know what that would look like with this call.
Okay. So I propose a bit of a vision here. Why don't we set up weekly calls from the start of the build phase between your lead developer or some of your main developers, my analysts, in order to validate some of the assumptions and questions and queries that you're having along the way as well? Would that be of use?
sure. Or perhaps your guys would like to come to the weekly meeting.
Yeah, I think it would be good to separate them away from the usual chat and chatter and bump in the PM meeting. I think it would be good to set aside some time to really dig into this.
Yeah, okay.
That might guys take some of the legwork away from the developers as well.
Yeah. Okay, I don't see that as being a problem. Again, I will have to run that past Gary. But, you know, I'll take that away and come back to you, and I'm sure that won't be too big a problem.
Sure. That's what you think.
Would you like to close
Nice
it
job.
down until how long it's going to take
That was on Paul. Nice job. And good. Thank you for taking the challenge. How did it feel doing it in a different way?
Strange.
Did it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because I'm thinking about it too much. Actually, I feel like it's naturally flowing very well.
How did it come across? Yeah.
Yeah.
From you guys, when I challenged him to do as a vision.
I think I'm very comfortable.
I can see where. I saw your status drop.
You were distracted by your phone anyway, Paul. Whatever happened on your phone just completely distracted you from what you were trying to do.
I saw your status.
I think you went then, your status went.
I saw you on the level rather than actually, this is what I want. This is when I want it to happen.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's make it a success. It's sort of like, it was more on the level of, I've got to go and speak to Gary. Because speak to Gary. But can you get back to me in the next couple of days? Because we need to push this off.
I think you started off high stakes. When you came back in there, definitely. What I think I'd like to do, we'd like to take blah, blah, blah. You started off very kind of assertive, strong. And the reason I kind of said, let's do it as a vision instead of how you did it, because you started to go, do you think we could set a regular call up? And it just felt like you didn't sound sure, which is why I challenged you. So for me, it definitely sounded better when you went back to more assertive style. But yeah, no, I agree. You didn't sound certain. So
I think the word think was the key thing for me. What I think I'd like to do, whether you said, what I'm going to propose is X, Y, Z, because you know what you want to do anyway.
Yeah.
Right? But you were tiptoeing in a way, and then because you didn't feel comfortable. But that's just.
What I think you do really well, Paul, is ask good questions. I think you're really strong there in asking questions.
That's what I do. So
yeah, and that's
my cool style. I just need to get. It's the certain thing.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to. I'm not that comfortable on that side of the circle.
But you did stay calm very well. To be honest, if I was in that chair, I'd have been a bit more frustrated. I'd have been that.
Kick the table.
I think I might have been scared.
Yeah, I would practice the high status body language and practicing pitching an idea, because when you started to do that, it sounded really good. And if you'd have kept with that energy, I think you would have stayed high status.
This guy is a very difficult guy to deal with. There's no two ways about it, because he is quiet. He has no authority. And what we're trying to do is something with no authority to grow up there and get their authority. And you've chosen possibly one of the difficult people who rant and rave are easy to deal with. People who are very quiet, very measured, and are less easy. So, I think when you say that you were being more assertive than you would normally be, I think it wasn't an inappropriate level, just about the right level to deal with somebody because, as you say, you don't want to have them off and get them on side. You want to keep them on side so they're going to be good influences for you. And I think you did that very, very well. I would echo again what Nicky said, that when it gets to the point, take the ball and balls. It's mindful of what we should do and take that status. Because let's face it, you're in a position, certainly with this guy, where you have permission to take that status.
Pitching a positive idea. I think this would be really helpful to you. Making it sound positive and appealing with your voice, and I think this would be great.
And it's not a negative thing to take a high status.
No,
this situation.
We're really good at suppressing emotive behaviour, where I would have got really frustrated, and you would have probably seen me tense and rile.
I regularly get feedback, and you're one of those people that feeds back to me as well, that I am too good at suppressing emotive feeling and emotional responses to things. So often you don't realise quite how pissed off I am until I get outside and I'm
the more you practice, look, can we do this, or making your suggestions and steering it in your direction, the less frustrating that will be for people.
Becoming more assertive is a
Yeah.
practice.
Definitely. What I saw in you the first time was that you felt like high status was being a bit kind of brusque, and I think as a Lou, that's often the perception that that's what you've got to do, but you can do it very positively. You know, look, this is a great idea, I think we should do this, and it kind of makes people buy into it more because they feel less criticised and they're more likely to go along with you. But nice job, Paul, really, really good.